with a 64 present. A Playguide and video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, welcome to another Lemon 64 play guide and review. In this episode, we will be taking a look at Foxx Fights Back. From the title screen, we can press the fire button to enter the game itself. Foxx Fights Back was developed by Denton Designs in time for Christmas 1988, and it was published by Imageworks. The aim of this game, you play as Mr. Foxx, and he must bring back food and goodies back to his wife waiting at home in the set. If you return with a sack full of goodies, your health will be restored, and if not, you'll get a slap in the face. To begin, all you must do is to avoid all the wildlife on the level, and having done so, we can then move on and pick up the collectibles. The wildlife, in this case, is made up generally of what is known as Hell's Beagles, and these beagles you can see on the screen. They are known as Hell's Beagles because they drive around on motorcycles later on. But to begin, we have just this weedy pistol, and we must make the best use of that armament to take out those beagles, and having done so, having removed 20, then that wave is then over and we can pick up these items. To begin, we have apples on the trees to pick up, but later on we will find a variety of goodies which we must take back to the set. There are also 4 weapons in the game. We begin with the pistol, and you saw I just picked up the shotgun. That will help us defend ourselves, but the reload of the shotgun is not as quick as the pistol, and sometimes the pistol can be better. Although the shotgun is stronger, that means it can take on more enemies together in a straight line. By pulling back on the controller, we can enter the set, and we can deliver our wares to the wife. You can hear a small range of sound effects on offer, and by pressing the F1 key we can turn on the music. The very catchy in-game music is actually taken from a number of classical themes, including March of the Toreadors from Carmen, the first movement of Symphony No. 40 by Mozart, and Hungarian Dance No. 5 by Brahms, all merged together into one long track. And sometimes pressing the F1 key and playing that music can make the travelling between these long distances of the map pretty bearable. You can see on the screen there I am avoiding birds, but my score is static. Yes, those birds will dive bomb our position and they will deplete our energy, which you can see in the bottom left corner is represented by the tongue of the fox. Luckily we can collect rabbits, and by collecting those bunnies there that will restore our health, and we can also collect chickens in the coop and they will also restore our health. But these flying enemies there can be a pain, and if they land on target that will wipe our energy out pretty much straight away. So all we can do is outrun those, and with the sound effects on, that gives us a good idea of when they are just about to drop a bomb. But I figured out a nice safe place there. If we stand right on the corner of this wall, then we can take out the rest of that flying flock and save our precious energy. And our stamina will not slow down the fox, even if his stamina is virtually on the floor. But that is a very good idea to have the fox's energy as the tongue there in the bottom corner, and I haven't seen that reproduced in another game before or since. Again, by pulling down we can enter this shortcut, and that will actually give us a shortcut all the way back to the set, and that will save us padding around. But for now, I've managed to deplete the horde of winged menaces from a Hitchcock movie, and now we can run around the level literally undisturbed. Occasionally we will find a wall in the way, and if we hold our controller in the up position and then press fire, we can jump over that wall, and we can jump over hills and things like that. So I'd certainly recommend waiting until the fox stops before you attempt to jump, because if you jump too early and the fox crashes into that wall, that is life over. You can see another nesting coop, but I'm avoiding those roast chickens for the moment because I will save those for when I need those later, when my energy is running dry. By avoiding those squirrels, and that isn't easy sometimes because they throw random acorns from that tree, and so learning how to jump in this game is a nice feature, and if you can jump over those enemies, so much the better. You can see those hell's beagles piling onto the screen, and if we pause, that will allow them to merge onto the screen, and that saves even more materializing and makes our life easier. We can also press F1 again to turn off the music, and that will give us an audio cue as to where those beagles are. You'll generally hear those barking away on the edge of the screen before they appear, and then it's guns at the ready. Unfortunately, this game gives us precious little time to turn around and to kill those attackers. By the time we've turned around and pressed fire, sometimes an attacker has appeared from behind and wiped out our energy. Yes, one touch from those guys will wipe our energy out almost outside of the circle, and 2 touches of an enemy will probably wipe out a life. They can also fire bullets from their own guns, and if we touch those bullets, obviously that will wipe out half of our energy as well. So I find hiding behind this plant there on the very edge of that trigger zone is enough to pick those off one at a time, and if it took 20 beagles to knock out the first wave, I'd say perhaps 40 by the time you get to this stage, and it really does take time to knock those out one after the other. And I can see my energy there. I'm deciding to avoid the rest of those dogs and run all the way back. Hopefully I can restore my energy, and that will mean I can return to the action restored, and I can take out those hounds. So if we can only avoid these nuts falling from the tree, and well, unlucky. That will respawn our character all the way back to the last checkpoint, which could be very near, or it could actually be miles away. Luckily, the checkpoint is pretty near to where we were before, and the game memorises any hit points scored over the enemies, which means you won't find the same number of dogs waiting to kill us when we die. But at the moment, I'm still choosing to avoid those things, because if they gain contact, then that's an easier life over. So sometimes jumping out of harm's way can help. In this case, it certainly did not help, and we find ourselves going all the way back. The player is given 3 lives at the beginning of the game, as indicated by the small foxes on the right of the screen, and as we shall see later on, there is actually an extra life hidden in every level in the shape of a huntsman's horn. So the player can have 4 lives in total, and we are down to our last life already. So let's continue trying to blow away those mangy mutts. And again, I have no idea the number that we are supposed to blow away in each wave. It would have been a good idea to have a visual number counter on the screen, but at this rate it looks like 60 is the final order, and then when they finally stop materializing on the screen, that means we can carry on with the level. If not, then you'll have to jump over all these hell beagles and avoid them at all costs. For the moment, if we manage to kill the last remaining survivors of this attack wave, that means we can collect the last 2 apples and return those home, whereupon we will get all our energy restored. And I think as long as we return with at least 2 items, 2 collectible items there, then our wife will give us full power back. So by collecting all 4, we don't gain any extra power, but we do get 1,000 points for each one of those returned home. So let's turn tail and head all the way back. The good news is this game is long, and we haven't even seen half of the level yet. In fact, we've probably only seen a third of it. And the bad news is this game is long. So yes, at this stage it requires us to pad all the way home again, beyond all those traps that we negotiated before, and now we've cleared the level, that can be a little redundant and a little boring. Luckily, we find extra shortcuts later on, which cuts down our distance of travel quite significantly, and that's why I'm collecting all these rabbits at the moment, because when we open another cave shortcut, that will block off our previous one, and all those bunnies will go to waste. At the moment, all we have to do is to avoid the last nuts to return home, and even if we do get hit by a head-on collision, it's not going to do too much damage given the fact that we will have all our energy restored just by delivering a few apples. I'd certainly say the sound effects are great in this game, and with the music and the sound effects playing together, it's not too bad. Although if you really want to master this game, I'd certainly recommend switching the sound effects on and switching the music off, because the music may be distracting, and because with the sound effects we can hear those beagles approaching and dropping bombs from birds and chestnuts and things like that. So with the sound effects, it gives us an early warning of impending doom, and without those sound effects we are almost moving blind. As you can see, I've managed to get through the stage where we were before, and I've speeded this footage up a little just to get there, and we actually find that this glade, which we picked up the apples from earlier on, leads to yet more missile throwing squirrels, and after that we find our first leap of faith over a river. There is 2 leaps of faith over 2 rivers in this game, and as long as we stand on the edge of that bank, then we can leap bank to bank and get there. You may notice the squirrels really do lob their nuts in this section, and you have to be really fast to get through that bombardment. If you can't, then those hits will certainly deplete the energy. And just after this we'll find 2 moles, and they will again lob deadly missiles in our direction. Luckily, if we can duck down into this section, this cave will reveal another weapon. Yes, this is the semi-automatic submachine gun, and finally we have the power to fight back. And it's a real pity that whenever we die we lose the gun, and that's certainly a drawback in the game, but we won't be needing the gun because the next section is the town. In the town we will find great graphics, and now that we have progressed in the level and we are above and beyond the river and those nowhere backs, then it's time to get killed, because if we make the wrong jump at the wrong time, collide into those walls, we will get killed, and that's our last life over. Let's skip on to another playthrough where I've basically got to that section that I've just shown you before, and just a little beyond that section there is another cave which gives us a shortcut all the way home. So now if we inspect the first cave that we find on this level, then we will no longer go to the first checkpoint. That will take us all the way across to where we were a moment ago, and that saves time and trouble and endless journeying on this level. You can see no more rabbits there because that is a different shortcut, and if we continue to the left we'll find the first part of the town, but if we continue to the right here before we get to the second section of the town, we'll find more jumps, including these dog kennels, and as we have seen, if we mistime those jumps and jump into a wall we will die straight away, and that is unfortunate because sometimes the walls do not scroll onto the screen, and so we have to give those a wide berth to begin with. But before we can get anywhere near that second part of the town and collect our goodies, we need to take on yet another attack wave. This time it takes maybe 80, 90, maybe 100 to blow all those away, and they will keep increasing. The next attack wave after that will require even more to be blown away, and so sometimes dodge and move is a lot better than stand and fight. This game was created by Denton Designs, and the main coder in this case was Dave Colclough. He basically started on the Commodore 64 with Shadowfire in 1985 and Frankie Goes to Hollywood in 1985, and he also helped do the code for Enigma Force in 1986. But incidentally, the code for the ZX Spectrum version was created by John Heap. As far as I know, Dave Colclough also created the graphics for this game, and you can see we are speeding up these graphics on the edge of that kill zone because it really does take time to kill 100 enemies. The music was created by Fred Gray, and he also started on Pedro for Imagine in 1984, before moving on to Shadowfire in 1985. Fred Gray also crafted the music for Mutants, which was excellent, and Firefly in 1988, and Army Moves as well. And so Fred Gray with a small legacy there. And as for Denton Designs, they also created The Great Escape for Ocean in 1986 and Mutants in 1987. Foxx Fights Back is certainly unique. In fact, in some cases you'll find the name spelt F-O-X-X, and that basically is because Mr. Fox, that's you, is spelled F-O-X-X, but you can see the title screens on the loader and on the ZX version actually spell the game F-O-X, and that is actually the way it's supposed to be spelt. The full game was also given away in Zap issue 66 in October 1990, along with a Creatures playable demo and a Scorpion full game by Hewson. So Scorpion by Hewson, maybe we'll cover that game a little later on. In the meantime, I'm having my tail chewed off thanks to a horde of rabid canines, and so it's best just to jump over those and enter another hole where we find the best weapon in the game, and an extra life as well. And so with the best weapon, which is the automatic machine gun, we can now run and fire at the same time, and you can see, just like Rambo there, we can stand and fire. And as far as I know, we will have that weapon until we die. Unfortunately, it is so easy to die in this game, much too easy to die by touching enemies, and unfortunately again with the weapon it is much too difficult to jump. Apparently this character can only jump with this weapon if they are in a run to begin with, and so we can run by pushing up and in the diagonal, and if we hold down fire in the diagonal then that should jump over what we need to jump over. So let's try that, and there you go, no deaths. And on these picnic tables we can find a number of pies, and another jump reveals a bar. We can also steal the bar snacks, cheese squiggles there, and we can take those home with some more bonus points. I have to say, although the controls are rather good, they are not spot on, and it does take precious time to turn around on the spot. And if those Beagles decide to attack us, we will be wiped out straight away. And that's yet another unfairness in the game when you've been playing this for quite some time, and one touch can wipe us out. So I'm basically having to hope and pray that I'm not going to collide with anything with these wild jumps, and if I can find that hole, that should lead to a shortcut. But if we return into this hole because we have died, then that will restock the machine gun and we can now pick that up. Unfortunately, between here and the goal is another horde of the enemies which we didn't actually manage to remove the last time around, and so you can see me creeping up those enemies there and turning the music off. Again, make sure that we can take those on and blast those away. If it wasn't for the slow turning around aspect in this game, then by now the player would be frantic and the player would be having so much fun. Unfortunately, the enemies do gang up on one another, and because it's difficult to jump with a standing position unless you are running as well, that means actually having the better gun means you are prone to die even sooner. So here we go, all the way back in the level until we find the last checkpoint. And doing this might even save our life because that negotiates some attack waves sometimes. But yes, the endless padding around is actually worse than a Dizzy game, and you can spend hours simply getting from one side of this huge landscape to the other. On the plus points, you can see the parallax scrolling in the background there with the sun and the clouds and the hills there, which is a great effect. And actually running through fields reminds me of the second level of Soccer Kid on the Amiga. The environment is certainly busy, and there is certainly plenty to do on this one continuous level. Surprisingly, this game endlessly loops and there is no way to complete it. We need 4 more items out of this game, and returning those 4 home to the wife will then complete the game, and it will say congratulations, level 1 completed. It will then take you all the way back to the set, and the game will virtually reset, except for more enemies and harder enemies. But apart from that, yes, the game loops infinitely, and there is just no way around it. Luckily, the second level is a little harder, as I say, and those endless beagles never stop coming on the second level, and that just makes the whole thing pretty damn hard. In the meantime, I'm using the bunnies there to restore my energy. If you cannot jump over those beagles, then at least aim for the rabbits, and then you can top up your health. At the moment, we have died, so we're back down to the weedy pistol. But you can see there, sometimes when the enemies appear from behind, that's the one surefire way to get killed. In this section, we have managed to find a safe spot where the beagles do not appear from behind, and they will deplete our energy. So if I speed that game up again, and again by this stage you might have to get rid of maybe 100 beagles to get through this attack wave. There is no indication on the screen, but it would have been a good idea to have that. And so we are fast forwarding there to get through these endless enemies, and if I hadn't have found a safe spot there, maybe I would have died 2 or 3 times already. So the game doesn't play fair, and the slow turning round aspect. So apart from that, the game doesn't play fair all the time, so there are pros and cons, hence the mixed reviews. In the Commodore User Magazine, this game got 70%. The Games Machine reviewed this and gave it 73%. Computer and Video Games Magazine gave this 73%. Zap gave it 79%. In Commodore Computing International, Tony Horgan gave this 80%. Commodore Disk User gave this 80%. And Ace also gave it 80%, praising the incredibly impeccable scrolling and the detailed graphics and the environments. So yes, the scrolling is impeccable, and the fact that we can gain a gun after we've died is also a great feature, but to my mind there is just 1 or 2 little annoyances which spoil the game, and of course the game cannot be completed, it just loops back to the beginning, and that again is a little spoiler. But having gone through this section once already, all we need to collect is 4 more items, and then we can loop the game. So let's see if we can turn that into reality. And you may remember I've already gone through hardship already at this point, trying to blow away these hounds, and once again their canine teeth sink into my rear end. So that's another life over, and it's so easy to do in this game. As I say, it's so easy when you can be surrounded by enemies at any point, and sometimes there is just no way out. So let's collect that item yet again. Not that it made our life any easier whatsoever, even with the best gun and lots of bullets. So sometimes with the pistol it can be easier in some sections, but the simple matter that you can simply turn around quicker and fire that thing, and sometimes when you're holding down fire button with the best weapon, that again delays the turn around aspect and you'll be a sitting duck. Meanwhile, on the 64, we have managed to find another cave system, and this is the 3rd shortcut, which takes us all the way back to our set, and that will block off the 2nd shortcut and make the journey all the way back home even quicker. The next step is to enter the town, which is made all the more difficult with its difficult jumps. As far as I know, we must align ourselves with the doorstep and those doors, and that will make that jump much easier. If we can't, well, we're going to die. Look at that. Under normal circumstances, that brick wall would have killed us dead, but due to a glitch in the game, that saves our life. Certainly the walls and crashing into those walls is the part that I hate about this game, and you can see me surviving there. Ordinarily, I'd get my lives depleted on this section, because usually those walls don't really scroll onto the screen quickly enough, and unless you use the doorstep method, you'll fail. So let's get out of here and back to the wife with those last few items. And surprisingly, there are more items after that, but we aren't long off the level loop. And so let's ferry those home, and thank God we don't have to run all those miles. So yes, I do like this game. It is cutesy and childish and funny and all those things that I used to love about this game, when I played it on the Zap cover tape, and it still has firepower and great scrolling and great sound effects there. And take a look at this. Even with the best gun in the game, we are still unable to shoot those squirrels, and we lose our last life and die. So thank you once again for viewing another Playguide and review. See you sometime soon.